Hello, I'm Carl Herzog, public historian for the USS Constitution Museum. And today I'm in the reading room of the Samuel Eliot Morison Library at the museum. Here at the museum, we're constantly looking to expand both that library and the archive. New information and new sources allow us to continue to expand the story that we're able to tell here about USS Constitution. Archival material, as old as it may be, often pops up from unexpected places where it may never have been seen or available for use by the general public before. Today, I'm excited to present to you one of those finds that we've recently been able to add to the archive here at the USS Constitution Museum. This is a collection of papers that belong to Captain James Sever. This nondescript looking box contains more than 100 documents about the early United States Navy, the construction of USS Constitution and the other 6 original frigates that belonged to the Navy, as well as extensive correspondence about the conduct of the Quasi-War with France and the way the early United States Navy was operating its ships and beginning to establish its officer corps and crew. Today, I'd like to show you and share with you some of what I think are the fascinating documents within this collection that are going to allow us to help to review this history and out of it, ideally create new programming, new exhibits, and share this new information with the broader public. So let's take a look. James Sever was born in 1761 in Kingston, Massachusetts, and joined the infantry and the army during the American Revolution. After the war, he became a merchant ship captain doing transits to Europe and the Mediterranean, but he had no naval background or experience when he was tapped to become superintendent for the construction of USS Congress in 1794. As the superintendent of construction of USS Congress, Sever was responsible for gathering all of the supplies, equipment, stores, materials that the ship would need not only for its construction, but for its outfitting and preparation when it would eventually go to sea. As a result of this role, a number of the documents in the Sever Collection provide windows into the details of those early vessels' construction and how they were outfitted and the things that they required. A number of these documents are related, obviously, directly to USS Congress, but Sever, in his communication with the other superintendents, also ended up with detailed documents connecting to USS Constitution that we here at the museum have not had the privilege of seeing before. These include documents like this that provide a list of the detailed and exact specifications of all of the standing rigging for USS Constitution at the time she was launched in 1797. Another document provides a list of all of the primary blocks or pulleys that went into the rig for USS Constitution. Constitution's rig and rigging changed dramatically over the 200 years that she was at sea, and even by 1812 had changed a lot from what it was when it was originally designed and built. So documents like this are offering us a window into how Constitution was set up and how Constitution, Congress, and the other frigates were being equipped and outfitted for sea at the beginning of the development of the U.S. Navy. Sever's role as the superintendent of the construction of USS Congress was eliminated when construction of that ship and a number of the other frigates was suspended, and Sever was out of a job. When the Quasi-War with France broke out, Sever got a position in command of the USS Herald, one of 8 original merchant ships that were converted for war because the frigates were not yet ready to sail. He sailed Herald until USS Congress was ready to get underway, and then he got the job as captain of that ship. A large number of the remaining documents are connected to Sever's command, first of USS Herald, and then of USS Congress during the Quasi-War with France in the Caribbean. Once James Sever took command of USS Congress, he was sent to the Caribbean where he would join up with USS Constitution and other U.S. Navy ships that were patrolling the region in an effort to capture French privateers that had been seizing American merchant ships. Hundreds of American ships had been seized by French privateers following the American treaty with Great Britain, which revolutionary France saw as an affront to previous treaties that the United States had with France. A large number of the documents in the Sever collection include correspondence between Sever and Silas Talbot. As the Commodore on board USS Constitution in charge of the squadron in the Caribbean, Silas Talbot was directing U.S. Navy operations there and gave specific instructions to Sever on Congress as to where he would go and what they wanted him to do. The correspondence provides a fascinating insight into the operation of this first war and an insight into the difficulties of patrolling the Caribbean islands, which had long been a center for privateering by European nations. The revolution in France also led to an uprising among enslaved people on the French colony of San Domingue on Hispaniola in the Caribbean. The United States was supporting Toussaint Louverture, who was leading this revolt at the time. And among the papers in the Sever collection is a letter specifically from Toussaint indicating his eagerness to work with Sever, who had been assigned to the Cap Francois station along the coastline of San Domingue. But as correspondence between Sever and Silas Talbot also points out, Sever was not to engage any French naval ships as part of this conflict, but only to seize French privateers. And although he would fulfill requests of Toussaint to move supplies, provisions, and equipment, Sever and other U.S. captains were not to accept any gifts from Toussaint, who had developed a habit of giving large quantities of coffee and other supplies to American captains who were supporting the effort. The United States Navy, Silas Talbot wrote to Sever, could not be seen as accepting bribes of any kind in this regard. Another document I find particularly fascinating in the Sever collection is a bill of lading for a ship that was to resupply Sever on USS Congress and Edward Preble on USS Essex. About halfway through the Quasi-War, the Naval Secretary Stoddard decided to send Preble and Sever not to the Caribbean, but to the Dutch East Indies, Batavia, in what is today Jakarta, to search out for privateers there that were also seizing American commerce. It was a questionable mission in part because it was such a commitment of resources to send two ships to literally the other side of the world when a very small percentage of American commerce was actually occurring in those islands. However, it demonstrates the logistical difficulties during that time period of conducting such a distant operation. Preble and Sever were sent off to Batavia, but this additional ship that was laden with nothing but provisions and supplies to re-equip Preble and Sever was sent directly after them to Batavia. The details of the document also indicate the sort of speculative nature of this kind of operation. There was no guarantee that one or either of the ships would make it, and so the orders included in the bill of lading provided the captain of that ship with directions on what to do if he got there and neither of the Navy ships was there, and how long he was supposed to wait and how he was to dispose of the cargo. So from the construction of the first frigates of the United States Navy to America's first conflict abroad, to the revolution in Haiti, to provisions of operations, naval operations around the globe, the Sever Collection provides us with myriad insights into the early operations and development of USS Constitution, her sister frigates, and the early U.S. Navy. We're extraordinarily excited to now include this collection in our archives and make them available to researchers in the future to continue to explore this early history. Thanks so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for your support of the USS Constitution, our historical archives and research library. Thank you very much.